I'm still fuming with the fact that we just, one day the board decided we are taking them out because it
wasn't
fits
the
the
board.
national narrative.
It wasn't the board.
Correct.
Seriously, it was
Correct.
the county executive unilaterally took them out. There was a discussion with the board about whether they should have them or not, and they decided to keep them in high schools in a kind of a different kind of format, but they're still there. Right. But the county executive unilaterally said, no, they're out of middle schools. It wasn't like a discussion with the Board of Education.
And it's sad.
And, my concern here is that not just during my tenure as chief, but the tenure of the prior chief, we had a number of elected officials who were encouraging us, imploring us to expand the SRO program to cover middle schools. And it included the current county executive. He wanted us to expand that program. And so finally we did. And then we saw that there was a great need to really expand that program because the SROs at that time were also working between two schools.
Yep.
And what we would find is that the SRO, while at one school, the other school that they were supposed to be watching, they had some issue going on. So then that principal wanted them back over at the school. And really there was a need to have an SRO in both of those schools. So really there is a true need to have that expand into some of the other middle schools in the county.
And also, I remember, it was my last year in office, and I guess your last year as a chief, we actually worked out an agreement with the superintendent, Dr. Martirano. And I remember we were at Mount Hebron High School because there was a lot of concern about the parkland and everything else, and we were making sure that we had all the capital improvements necessary to make sure all the schools were locked and you couldn't get in unless you buzzed, and we make sure all the safety features were there. And we also announced that we had a program that we were going to have more SROs in middle schools, like every year, do a little bit more, so we would get to where every middle school would have one. That was our plan. And then we left office, and oh my God, now we're taking them out, and it was a plan that everybody kind of agreed on that we were going to have them in every middle school. Very sad.
And I think I heard the words used. It was like a compromise to remove them, and that was very disturbing. That was very disturbing to hear that, because the impact that they have on young. First, let me get back to the concern that the public wants more exposure to the police to build relationships. That's very key to the success of any public safety program. You have to have the trust of the community, and so especially with our young ones. So if there's concerns with some people in the county with students at that age, whether it's the middle school or the high school, with SROs, we've always had a history in Howard County working collaboratively to work on those issues directly. Don't just abandon the whole program, throw it out. Work on what those specific issues are so we can address them. Don't have them sitting back in the shadows of a school, not in it, and then call them when there's a problem. With that relationship building, they can work on issues and prevent issues, and also provide that counseling that some of the kids need. I'm passionate about the SRO program because initially when this program started in the early 90s, I even questioned it. That, is that really something that we have to do, of having police in the schools? But things have changed in the school system, and with safety, it became a concern. But then we also saw the plus that it provided, that building those relationships early on so they can see the police not just as the one that comes and arrests people and issues citations, but there's another side of a police officer. They are actually counseling, coaching, and mentoring these kids in school, and that's something that can be very rewarding.
You hit the nail right on the head, Chief. I couldn't tell you how many videos I've watched where SROs were engaged in this very fruitful, educational, and very engaging conversations with our young schoolers, where it was fun. It looked to me like everybody was learning, but it was fun. There are so many facets to an SRO program, as the way I see it as a parent, than what is being portrayed out there. Now, I've also heard comments and objections about funding. Why should we fund an SRO program? That's money wasted. Well, don't get me started about the board and the county wasting money on programs that are not needed at all, right? In my opinion.
Right.
My individual opinion doesn't count, but
Sure
does. But what I'm saying is, we are selecting these programs based on what's politically convenient, based on what is fitting the national narrative, and then making choices for our communities, whether they are right or not.